So it's been a fantastic morning. I was in a packed audience, and this event is the third edition, and it gets better and better every year. And Minnie and George have been doing a wonderful job. And nice to see these packed crowds. Now, hello to everyone. Thank you for attending this session. We can get some more in, I think. It'll be very good. As you all know, we are in a knowledge-sharing economy. And the purpose of this session is to get the audience have an opportunity to interact with the expert and ask questions, seek their views and their guidance, and enhance their knowledge. Remember, the UAE, F&B community, as well as the region, we are here to help each other to survive, thrive, and succeed. And events like this are the best platform to engage. Today, we have 4 experts in marketing, operations, HR, and finance. Now, among the audience, I'm sure we have a lot of startups and SMEs. I strongly encourage you to take this opportunity to learn, to collaborate, and to network, as the motto of the Fast Food and Cafe Convention is. And seek their guidance, mix with others, network, and this will really help you. Now, let me invite you to the stage one by one, our experts. And I'll go in alphabetical order. So it is Irina Orlandini. So Irina is an international marketing expert in the restaurant business and hospitality. She was the former regional chief marketing officer of Papa John's, TGI Fridays, and Costa in the CIS countries. Since 10 years, she's been running her own business consultancy. She's supporting the brands in building their marketing strategies and system. Irina Orlandini. She is also an author with the book Battle for the Guest, which we are going to give away for the first 10 questions that is asked. Okay. Next, we have Kim Risk. Kim has 20 years of experience in human resources and employee relations. She is presently the people director of Yoke Brands, which has brands like Pickle, 1762, and the new Bonebird. She has previously worked with very well-known brands, Berry World, Amazon, Henkel, and McDonald's in the UK. Next is Marvin Albali. So Marvin is a global restaurant industry expert. He has 22 years of experience managing well-known chains like Applebee's, Burger King, and Chili's in North America. He was also the former regional director of bars and restaurants for the Intercontinental Hotel Group, looking after Europe, Middle East, Asia, and Africa. And he is also the Amazon's #1 best-selling author for F&B books, Restaurant Excellence. And lastly, Pauline Ibrahim. Pauline is a seasoned finance expert with 14 years of experience in senior leadership roles with Azadiya Group, Icon, and presently she is the CFO of Black Spoon Management, which has very well-known reputed brands like Alo Beirut, Masti, Bombay Bungalow, Ibn al-Bahar, Nafas Beirut, and House of Curry. I am absolutely delighted that there are majority is women on stage, and you have a lone man there, but Marvin, you should take that as a compliment, being the lone. Yeah? It's good to see women on stage and leading. All right, now, what I'm going to do is, this is an interactive session between the audience and the experts. But I would like to break the ice and ask the first question to each of them. To the audience, remember, we have 10 books to give away to the first 10 questions asked. We have Restaurant Excellence, and as well as we have The Battle for the Guest. So I would encourage all of you to ask questions, seek their views, which you can learn, you can apply at your work. That's the purpose of this session, to have an interactive audience with the experts. Okay, so we will start with Irina. Irina, today in this crowd, we have SMEs and startups. Starting a business and running is never easy. It is an oversaturated market. They have less funds. They have a less marketing funds. They got the big giants who can spend, but they do not have enough funds for marketing. How do they really, what's your advice on how could they really acquire and retain customers in this tough market?
Thank you for the question, Ravi. In my opinion, marketing budget is not always the case.
Can you hear at the back?
Can you hear me? Okay. So marketing budgets are not always the case, in my opinion, and the case and the key to success, even in such a saturated market, and especially in such a saturated market, is the strategy. So I would advise to anyone starting a business here in the UAE or anywhere else in the world is actually to craft your strategy very thoughtfully. Start with site sourcing, a thoughtful site sourcing. Sometimes it takes months to find the right site for your startup, to find a site that fits the concept, fits the audience, that has enough footfall, that has enough visibility, or opposite, doesn't have any footfall, but it's cheap enough to make your budget work. And take your time to find the right site. Take your time to create a strong concept, starting with ideology, starting from brand platform, understanding your USPs, creating the best product possible, working thoroughly on your service strategy, service model. And then as you open, make sure you have an interesting opening, which really attracts media as well as guests. But in terms of particular tools, I would recommend to invest in CRM and in local marketing. Those are quite crucial. Those are the most crucial in my opinion, because social media is a thing that everybody is so excited about, but in my opinion, it's not the key. It's not the main tool to bring your customer into your restaurant. It's a good thing to have. It's a good thing to represent your brand in a right way. But the key tools of marketing in restaurant industry, in my opinion, are CRM and local marketing, for sure.
Thank you very much. I'd like to come to Kim. Kim, the world has changed. Before, we had one set of employees, and we worked with them. Today, we have different generations. They call it Gen X, Millennials, Gen Z, and now we even have the Gen Alpha, which is new. How do you, as a people director, get all these Millennials and Gen Z and Gen X who have different perspectives, different work styles, and how do you get them together and engage towards a common goal?
interesting. I thought you were going to start with an easy one, you said. It's a huge topic, as you know. I mean, it's something that baffles all of us. I would say from an HR perspective, that's why I'm here. It's tricky. I would learn about it. There's a couple of people I've listened to recently. Simon Sinek does a really good, he cuts to the chase and really gets to the basics of it, and cuts through some of the smoke and mirrors, because I think from an HR perspective, I think it's important. I have a love-hate relationship to it. I think it's really good to know data and information about people. But when it comes to HR, I think it's not personable enough. You know, I mentioned it to my daughter a couple of weeks ago through passing, and she's Gen Z. And she was like, oh, don't put me in a box, Mum. You know, okay, I identify as this, but don't, you know, put me in that box. And I think people are like that. So I would say it's good to know. My advice to leaders would be understand it, get to know it, embrace it. I would also say don't be offended by it. So a Gen Z in a couple of years' time is going to come to you and say, it's not you, it's me. I'm leaving you. They are going to leave you after 2 years. I'm a baby boomer or a millennial, I lose track. I'm not going to leave you. I'm going to be there for 5, 10 years if it's a good business. So I think embrace it, learn it, don't be offended by it. And I'd also say if you were interested in learning about your people, go more down the psychometric route. Understand what really makes them tick. If you talk to them about being Gen Z, it's great, but keep that. I would say it's really, really good for customers and marketing to understand your consumers. I would say from a people perspective, be aware of it, but generally I would go down a level and look at your psychometrics. Look at how people learn, look about how they engage, look at what makes them tick, look at what they like and don't like. I think that's far more important than understanding the parameters that we put them in to understand them. It's great. I do embrace it, but I wouldn't use it for much more than initial knowledge at this stage. I would definitely go down a level to really know your people.
Thank you. Marvin, I know that you're very passionate about people development. I know that you've said a food server represents $5 million. Why? Explain us.
Yeah, in all my seminars with restaurants, I always tell the food servers, each one of you represents 5 million, maybe 8 million, depending on the investment of the owner of the business. Because if you think about it, you spend 8 million to build a restaurant. It takes you 2 years to build a restaurant. But at the end of the day, it's really an interaction between a food server and a couple of guests. He or she represents the 4 million or the 8 million you spent, because you're not there all the time. They're extremely powerful. Any guest-facing employee is extremely powerful. And for me, training and ongoing training and daily training is really the name of the game for you to outperform your competition. That's a short and sweet answer, if you will.
Thank you. And Pauline, let's talk about crisis management in finance. You know, we have the pandemic, we have geopolitical tensions, and we have the recession. How do you really prepare for this? How do you ensure the accuracy of forecasting? How do you mitigate risks? What are the business essentials amidst all these uncertainties?
Good you ask this question, especially that you are in the Middle East. So even after the pandemic, people are expecting everything in life. So they would always be working on finding a way to be ready for anything at work. So when it comes to managing the crisis, I think you should focus on 3 important pillars. First one is mindset. So you need to have the right mindset to be able to lead whatever else that you will be doing or preparing to overcome this crisis. So you should be open-minded, pragmatic, think fast. Sometimes you need to consider a good solution fast versus a perfect solution but slow or late. So you need to act fast and be creative in any way that you will be driving the business. Number 2, I would say, is people. So you need to really make sure that they are safe, no matter what the crisis is being, financially safe, health-wise safe. Like during the pandemic, the first measures were happening also inside the kitchen with our employees. So people safety, people stability, being able to maintain their salaries, their financial stability as well. Number three, which is the hardest part, especially for finance, is cash flow. So it's the hardest part of the business to manage and to, especially that you need to prioritize, you need to negotiate, you need to allocate the resources properly. And since you're mentioning the forecasting, so this is something that we need to always take into consideration. So we always say we're doing a conservative scenario, a conservative budget, because we have to keep an eye on our cash flow. We need to be ready for anything, to be prepared. And when something happens, we need to be fast and readjusting our numbers, our forecasts to work accordingly.
Thank you. That was a good answer. Now I'm opening to the floor. So we got questions already, hands raised. Do you have the mic here, please, for this gentleman?
Thank you. Thank you very much. My question is for all of them.
For all of them?
Yes.
Wow.
So one question for all of them. Nowadays, we are facing a problem of some brands. We are facing a problem for some brands that they are having decline in the sales because some customers, they stop going there because of some politicals or something. So the sales is dropping. The sales of these brands already drop because of the customers. They are stopping visiting their restaurants. You got my point? And then we need
We are
an
not
action.
able, are you able
No,
to
you
hear?
might have to.
No, yes, I repeat it again, madam. I repeat it.
It's not very clear.
Yes, yes. Nowadays, some brands, they are facing the problem of some customers, they are not visiting them or not buying from them because of the political issue and boycotting, whatever you call it. So, you got it? You got it now? Yes. So we need an action to help us what we can do to increase again and to be back again to our sales and profit like before.
I can answer this. We had similar crises years ago, and different brands reacted differently. And my advice and my learning from that, number one, stay true to who you are. Because I remember there was an American brand that went out in the media and told everybody, we're not American. Everything we have is not American. When the crisis were over, nobody was going there because everybody wanted to have a USDE choice steak. Everybody wanted to have an American Angus beef. So number one, don't change who you are. Number two, probably more of a finance question, during crisis and low revenue, you really have to efficiently manage the operation until the crises are over. The crises are not going to be forever. So I would see, where can I find efficiencies? Is it size of menu? Is it labor cost? Or where can I improve revenue? Is delivery, is heavy discounting would help me at this stage, even though I have a very low profit margin, rather than having no profit margin at all. These are the two tips I would share with you and I would recommend.
Thank you. Oh, you're good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think from a people perspective, if you follow on from what you said, I think then communication is everything. Because if the business is feeling it, they're feeling it as well and on the front line. So I think if you do come across adversity in any way, shape or form, I think a QA out to them as soon as possible about what do we think, what do we stand for, to your point, and to make sure they know, because they will be facing the questions on the floor. You know, if you're in a restaurant or in a shop, they will be the ones on the firing line, and that's much harder than through an email or a blog or etc. So I think a Q&A out to them, a really clear message about exactly what you said, what we stand for, who are we, out to your people as soon as possible. I mean, often I think we sit on some of these things. What shall we say? When shall we say it? And often the people are the last people that we go out to, and I think it's essential that we flip that somewhat, and they find out and they know who we are first. So from a people perspective, I think comms is everything.
Okay, thank you. Oh, there's one there, the lady. Oh,
Excuse me, I have the microphone.
okay. Do you want to So, do you have the microphone here, please?
There's mics over here as well. We've got two going
have a
around the
question.
audience.
I got
So
the mic.
let's do this question. Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is to Marvin, Pauline, and even for Kim. Earlier, the presentation, what we had was on payments. And I would like to understand from the perspective that how important do you see payments into the restaurant concepts? And do you currently see the importance of having where your guests are coming in from, where they are dining in, what's working? Do you have these insights currently available with your current payment provider? And how important do you feel these added values from a payment provider will really enhance into your business as well?
I'm sorry, what was the first part of the question? We didn't hear it well.
Yeah, Marvin, the first part of the question was how important do you feel are payments in a restaurant industry?
Payments?
Payments, yeah. And do you see your current payment providers within the industry providing guest insights or guest data, where your guest is dining, where are they coming in from? And do you feel is that important for a payment provider to provide all these data within the payment industry? And do you feel that's important?
Sure, I'll let the ladies go first, and then
I will start on the finance part. It's important to gather data as much as possible from any type of aggregator, even if it's a payment app or tool. When we are looking at our numbers, and previously my colleague Manuel, he mentioned that we started to use Club app for payment inside our restaurants. Besides the efficiencies that we see of seat turnover, people, they can pay fast and move, split the bill, more efficiency when it comes to the operation. When it comes to numbers, we're satisfied with, of course, the increased value of tips that our employees are getting. And from terms of data, it will help us to look at average per check, the background of the customers, the nationality, who is coming more to our restaurants, how we can cater for them, and we can link it to our bill, since you know what they are ordering the most, which items are liked by a particular customer. And besides the menu engineering work that we do, at least now we can link those data to people and their what do they like.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you. You got something.
Can you hear me? Oh, I would add from the marketing standpoint, and I think any sort of data that is being collected on the customer and their habits and the sales and everything else possible is extremely useful. But I would suggest that POS providers and restaurateurs and operators get even much closer together to actually working together on how to leverage on this data, because we don't see that much of it in the industry. So my vision, and I think this advice to everyone providing those solutions, is to transition from POS solution company to data intelligence company, and being able to actually speak the same language with your clients, operators, and being able to support them in understanding your data and getting as much of it as possible. And I guess this is probably the future.
Quick payment in sit-down restaurant, casual dining restaurant, is extremely important from a guest satisfaction standpoint. In the fast food industry, of course, it's convenience. Now, there's a lot of data already out there, but you can never have enough. But I always say in the restaurant business, we really have to be careful with paralysis by analysis. As operators, our top priorities should be hot food, great experience, wowing the guest, not spending hours analyzing every single piece of data. Because today the industry, the IT industry, the POS industry, the payment industry, can give you so much data, you will drown in them basically. But yes, payment is important. Understanding consumer habit is important. Quick payment is important. And I'll leave you with one fact that I'm on a group of 250 senior professionals in the UAE. And one gentleman said when they moved to a software for payment, they saw a 50% increase in tips for food servers. So it's pretty powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The lady over there.
So I would like to ask a question directed to Marvin, please. My question is, for restaurants here in the UAE, particularly in the QSR industry, fast food, what are the main reasons for failure, especially in new concepts? If you can summarize what your experience insights are, please.
That's a fantastic question. You deserve a book for that. There are a lot of challenges nowadays in the industry in general. Fast food alone, let's put fast food on the side. You've got crazy inflation, right? You've got high rent, you've got high staff turnover. There's a lot of pressure on operation. The failure in fast food or not, most of the time boils down to heavy investment sometimes in upfront investment in a certain restaurant and not really focusing on the nitty-gritty and the details of the business. Our business is nothing but details. It's, as I mentioned earlier, it's what's the temperature of the burger, how fast we deliver the burger, how do we differentiate ourselves from a positioning standpoint, how do we train people from an HR standpoint, how do we maintain cost from a cost standpoint. So this business, there are about 8 or 9 categories that you have to manage at the same time brilliantly. Your food, your service, your marketing, your finances, your supply chain, right? So problem with the business, they open a business, we hire people who are not trained, we don't deliver great experience, we deliver okay experience, and I'm gonna tell you something really dangerous for the business, for business owners. They open a restaurant and then restaurant manager does table visits, and then they go back to the owner and they say, everyone is happy, yeah? But the restaurant is not busy. If everyone is happy and the restaurant is not busy, it just doesn't add up. Because many customers shy away from complaining. When I ran Burger King in Western Canada and ran 66 restaurants, we never knew, customers never told us through the online reviews that our Whopper was cold in most of our restaurants. We had to do a lot of customer focus work. We have to speak to customers to find out. So really, you don't get all the insights even from table visits. So you have to work hard to know what your customers don't like, what's not resonating with them, and what's causing the failure of your restaurant. That's the first question you need to know. Thanks.
Thank you. I think she deserves this book. It's not. Thank you. There's a lot of questions. Gentleman over here.
I think it'll be good to introduce yourself when you ask question. Mohammed Al-Madani, Chairman and CEO of Al-Madani Group of Companies, Master Franchisee of Charlie's Philly Steak. I think I will share some of the perspective of the current, and then I'll address the experts. Inshallah, we have a great expert here to know what's our future. I mean, 2022, we all know how, the COVID-19 had impacted our sales and, our operations. So we had, big challenges in 2022. So we were expecting, we're going to have a big relief in 2023. And then inflation started. The pricing started increasing. What we have to end up, our major restaurant QSR and major shopping malls. Then we have to increase our prices. So that increase in the price and the inflation and increase in the interest rate, all these 3-4 factors had definitely affected the performance and the sales of 2023. Now I address the expert. What is the forecast for 2024? Are we going to have some relief? Of course, another challenge was semester, as mentioned about the boycott. And we know there is our franchisee. We have a master franchisee, so we have franchised Saudi, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar. So we see, maybe UAE, we haven't seen a major effect because I know UAE is a very diversified culture, and you have tourists, and you have, so, but Saudi Arabia's majority is the locals and the Arabs. Same thing is for Kuwait and for Bahrain and for Qatar. Those countries has really affected, and they are asking us, Mr. Madani, what are you going to help us to do? Because our sales has dropped by 50%. Kuwait is a major place. And you don't want to mention the brands, but there is a big drop in the sales in the GCC countries. So that was another challenge which we never thought of. And you can never blame, when people seeing the news, 14,000 people getting killed, 6,000 children being killed. Definitely, we also have emotion, and we can understand the background that the people in the Middle East coming from. So future, what we're going to see in the 2024. And thank you very much for your input.
Thank you. So Mr. Madani is a pioneer in the franchising restaurants business for a long time here. He's also the advisory board member of Fast Food and Cafe Convention. Good question. I think Pauline?
Yes, so since now we are in the process of preparing our forecast for 2024, what I can say is first, the F&B industry is predictable because it's directly connected to the consumer. And the more we see that in our area, the region, population is growing. Like in UAE, the vision is to have around 30 million people by 2030. So the more there are people, the more people want to eat. So which means that there is a potential for the business to grow. But as you mentioned, a lot of things are happening besides the inflation, the competition, the saturation of the market. So for any business who is preparing their forecast today, they need to take into consideration that there will still be inflation, and that's why we have to be always creative by changing our menus, maybe portions, adapting to the market, to what's happening, because this is staying, as we can see from all the analysis and news about inflation. But there is a positive side which is connected to this area in particular in the GCC, where people are coming more to the GCC because of the stability. More businesses are opening, more events are happening. So I see also potential to balance between the expected increase in sales and the expected increase in cost to have a certain, a decent profitability in your P&L.
Thank you, Pauline. I think you have a question over there.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this question, and I'm often asked about the future because I have a long practice of trend forecasting. But when we talk about the future, the challenges will be always, no matter what region we're talking about. And my advice is not to think about the future as one specific picture, one specific scenario, because there's none. But as a set of possible scenarios which you can actually not really predict, but you can draw them with your team. And there is a tool in strategic management that's called scenario planning, which helps you run through a series of sessions with your team to understand possible scenarios of the future for your industry and for your company as well. So once your team has this overview of, let's say, 4, 8, 12, no matter how many scenarios, and work through them and exercise on them, you have a choice of strategies already prepared before anything happens. And this is a tool that's been used in international corporations for the last 50 years. So this is a tool that all of you can use in terms of understanding how your business may adapt to the future.
Thank you.
On the pricing thing you mentioned, I think the R&D department at the corporate office should play a major role in developing menu items that responds well to price sensitivity. We all know McDonald's had $1 coffee, $1 ice cream at a certain point, right? We at Burger King, we introduced breakfast at a low price to gain that day part. So at Charlie's, what's the thinking from a breakfast standpoint? What new products next to the amazing Philly steak that you have, that I love, that you can introduce and have great pricing and good demand.
I'm going to have to add something on now.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I also challenge you to be a bit braver when it comes to the people side of things, because Pauline's looking at me nicely, but she's the one that comes and takes me into a room and tells me that we need to reduce the headcount, we need to look at the training budget, we need to look at the travel that we're doing, we need to review all those. And I get that. You know, I've been in operations, I've been in HR for many years, and I completely understand that, and I'm open to that. And we need to get the head of the curve of that. But there are other controllables, I think, that need looking at, because people are the long game. And I think the short game, I get it. You know, I've sat with business owners before, I completely understand. But I think sometimes challenge yourself to look outside the typical parameters when it comes to people. And I would say that I'm the HR director, I know. But really, those people have been with you through the good times. They've learned. They are, you know, they're sponges. They've learnt your business. Don't let them go as easily as sometimes you do. I would urge you to look at other controllables within your business, and sometimes not always people first, because that you all know that you're out there. You do tend to look at the low-hanging fruit, and I completely understand. But do challenge yourself a little bit, is what I would add from a people perspective.
Thank you, all of you. I think we have the next question over there.
Thank you. This is actually a perfect segue for Kim, which I wanted to ask you was, how do you keep your team motivated? And I feel like that applies to different levels, because senior management, you need different tools to keep them motivated.
Yeah.
When it comes down to a dishwasher, how do you keep him motivated?
Yeah.
If you could provide some real life examples of what you do in Pickle and things like that, how do you
Okay.
apply those in?
It's a great question, actually, because people assume it comes naturally. For some it does, and for some it doesn't. I think to stay motivated, I'm going to be a little bit boring, and I'm not usually, but I would say, please make sure you have your house rules in place, so your policies, so people, when they walk in, they know where they stand. That gets underestimated an awful lot. And you know, if anyone's a parent out there, that type of discipline and the parameters that we live in, bring them into work, so people know exactly where they stand, where they work for you. What can I do? What can't I do? Then I would throw in some fun. And you know, if you're in hospitality, if you're in the restaurant business, if you're whatever side of the businesses you're in, and we're all got operations in our blood, you work hard. I mean, that's inevitable that you work hard. Then have fun, and don't be ashamed to say that. You know, I've worked for businesses that are like, Kim, don't say that too loud, but be bold and have fun. We have a lot of fun in Pickle. And Yolk Brands, and you've only got to look at our Instagram and the characters that work for us. I don't think I've ever had a team that make me laugh so much, and that's so important. Don't underestimate the power of humour. It gets us through the really good times, and it also gets us through the tricky times. We've taken a lot on in our business over the last 12 to 18 months. If you followed us, you'll know. So I would say the most important thing for your culture is to learn to have fun. And enable it, and give people permission, was what.
Just to add to that, I was on a seminar for about 300 hotels talking about service, and I asked a question to everybody, what does it take to be great server, to be great at service? And a lot of people answered, have fun. You gotta have fun. One more example, Chili's in 1999 changed all their operating standards, with the first step to be have fun. The next one, welcome the guest. If you are a cook, have fun. The next step, wash your hands. It's unbelievable how much fun has an impact on longevity and you know, keeping your staff. Totally agree.
I have a case to share on this one. Once upon a time, more than 10 years ago, I had to open a Papa John's restaurant in Azerbaijan, in Baku. And the opening was not very easy. We had to work really hard to prepare, to train, and every day was, we're gonna open tomorrow. So every day we thought we're gonna open tomorrow, but tomorrow came and something got wrong, and then days kept going and going, and they were like, we were on, you know, day 12 of working non-stop, but we couldn't let everybody go home for a weekend because we were going to open tomorrow. Everyone was exhausted. I was responsible for the whole opening, for the whole team. And I was like, okay, what do I have to tell them today so we actually open well tomorrow? And I got everyone in one round, in a circle, and told them, you know what? today is going to a big day. Today we're going to open the doors, finally, and you are going to become a part of a huge family of 90,000 employees across the world with thousands of stores. And I'm looking at the wall. John Schnatter is so proud of you. He's going to celebrate the opening of your beautiful store, the most beautiful store, and it was really a beautiful store. He's going to celebrate today with all of you, welcoming you to the big family. And everybody's got uplifted in a second. And it was a fantastic opening indeed. But what happened then, after 7 years, I met a guy on a bartender convention in Kiev, Ukraine, and he came to me and said, "Do you remember me?" I was like, "No." And he was a brand ambassador for Diageo, quite a senior position. And he said, "Can you remember me? I was a part of your team for the opening, and thank you so much for showing us the big picture." And it motivated him so much to grow this much. And I think showing the big picture and a realistic picture at the same time is something that really inspires your team, even in the hard times.
Thank you. I think you have a gentleman over there.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zohair. I'm representing Jalebi. We're a restaurant management and inventory system. So my question really was mainly for Pauline, but also I'd love to hear from everybody else. Marvin, I think your experience will be very relevant. So we've heard a lot of things about demand side activity and a lot of, how do you keep things moving on the front of house? There were a few questions about, what are the most important things around how to avoid restaurants from failing? I wanted to kind of segue off of that and also talk a little bit about, the fun part, which is the back of house. And to understand, especially from your businesses and your experience, what are the most important things as far as inventory optimization is concerned, and what have you done and seen over the last couple, maybe couple of decades that have become fundamentally critical in terms of ensuring your food cost is maintained or below that sort of, that bleeding edge, but also being able to keep it at a point where you're competitive from a pricing point of view without having to pass the cost on to the customer. Understanding that, the dynamics of supply chain are changing and very volatile. How do you manage that, and what are the tools and practices that you're using today that are actually helping you keep this effective and competitive?
So just before that, we have a long queue of questions, so we want to keep it crisp and short. Yeah, one or two answering it, yeah, because a lot of people wanted to ask. Thank you.
I will answer from a finance point of view, and then Marvin will continue. Yeah. So first, I would say you should, the ideal thing to make it work in any business is to keep an eye on the trend. And it's a work between operation and finance. So finance should always look at the trend of your cost, of your wastage, or of all your KPIs, and work closely with operation to make it better. When it comes to currently, I work with Alo Beirut. So it's a value for money brand, like people perceive it as a value for money. So definitely, whenever we are facing any challenges or inflation or increase in our cost, the last thing we would think about is to increase our prices. What we try to do is really to bring something that is relevant to the customer, something that is in terms of quantity that is really good for them, and we focus on increasing the volume of our tickets to be able to reduce our costs or to manage or optimize our costs. So this is from finance and Alo Beirut. I'll give Marvin.
Sure. That's a great question, by the way, because food and labor are the largest controllable costs in any restaurant in the world. If you're operating a casual dining restaurant, if it's non-fast food restaurant, it's a lot easier. It's all about menu engineering, and I'll give you some tips. So for example, you gotta make sure that you have great cross-utilization of ingredients. So if you have shrimp on the menu, it should not be only shrimp pasta. Shrimp salad, shrimp pasta, and surf and turf. This way you cross-utilize the ingredient, it moves faster, it's fresher, you have no waste. You gotta minimize the single-use ingredients. So some restaurants, they buy berries for only creme brulee. But berries is an expensive product, right? So, and you're not selling a lot of creme brulee, chances are you're throwing the berries away. So you gotta analyze your product mix behavior and see which items I'm really buying so many single-use items, what for, right? And am I cross-utilizing the ingredients? Also, Am I doing menu engineering every 3 months and deleting the non-moving items? Is there a way to increase price by 2 to 3 dirhams on the top selling items, top 5? Because that impacts the profitability and revenue big time. So that's how I would do. On a fast food, for fast food operators, it's a lot harder. For fast food operators, it's a supply chain game, procurement game, and probably the only thing you could control really well if you use a lot of frying oil is maintaining that, because frying oil in many fast food restaurants is a huge cost, but there are many ways to extend the life of the oil. We can talk about this maybe some other time, but that would be my advice.
Thank you, Marvin. I think there's one question over there. I think this gentleman deserves this spot. Gentleman over there. Yeah.
Hello, guys. Myself, Ritesh. I run a financial advisory called CapMob. My question is to Pauline. What are the hypercritical levers in the cash flow management that a restaurant owner needs to be absolutely on top of in order to manage or even sometimes find hidden cash in the business? Thank you.
Good question. I need a board and a calculator and all. So how to manage the cash flow, you mean?
The most important points
Okay.
only.
So definitely it's focusing on the operation cash flow and how to grow your EBITDA to keep having cash coming to you, while managing your expansion, your investment, and allocating properly the cash and prioritizing where you need to go first to make the highest EBITDA that will bring more cash to your cash flow. Definitely, everyone mentioned already focusing on costs, focusing on labor costs, on rent, reducing your rent, extending your payment terms with suppliers as much as you can. And the more you can stretch, the better for you to have cash with you all the time. In our business, luckily, all of us as food, we receive our sales on a daily basis. We don't have issue with our receivables. So the key point is to really manage our payables, to really have cash on hand.
Thank you. Got that? So I had someone here, a gentleman over here.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Samir Sheikh. I am all the way come from Saudi. I have a question. Saudi is a very challenging market, and the restaurants which I'm running it is a QSR and live cooking, and customer can choose their own choice of vegetable or chicken, whatever. My question is, how to educate customer? This is our standard, and we cannot give more, because what happens is, all the customer comes, I need more and more and more, and that goes to my food cost more than what my benchmark is. So, how to educate customers to know them that this is the brand standard? For a marketing point of view, or if everybody can answer, that would be great.
Well, we'll be running out of time, so let's have Mark.
Yeah. What was the question? How to educate the customer to understand the service model?
Yes, we are running the business for the last 10 years, and I have a 55 location in Saudi. And from the 55 locations, some of the city I'm facing challenge from the customer that they think price is very high, and I haven't increased price in the last 10 years. So how to educate the customers, especially the teenagers?
How to educate the customers in terms of what?
Terms of the standard. Terms of
in terms of understanding your brand.
Understanding the
yeah.
brand.
I would say if you need to change the consumer behavior or to implement a consumer behavior, specific consumer behavior in the market, you usually do this through influencers that show how they are using your product, your brand. Was that the question? Yeah? And answering your concern about the raising of prices, in my opinion, you should not raise prices, all of the prices at the same time. You have to carefully analyze your sales mix to understand which menu items are more sensitive, which menu items are less sensitive, and then increase on the less sensitive first. Do not increase more than 25% of the menu at the same time. And every time you increase your prices, make an extra effort on service. Because once they feel that there's something else getting better, the customers feel rewarded and don't notice the price increase as much. If you don't change anything about your brand, about their experience, about service, and just increase prices, your customers feel unprivileged, right?
No, I haven't changed the price from the last 10 years with the same price, but they still customers say it is expensive. That is my question.
It's a long story of branding and PR exercise. We can talk about it for sure.
There's one over there.
Hi. My question is basically an HR question. What is the modern approach to improving employee performance leading to better organizational results?
Okay,
Employees are changing dynamically. The quality and the type of employees that you're getting in today is not what it used to be 10 years back. So what would you do?
That's for HR. So
Yeah. So to increase performance, is that the crutch of it? Well, I think there's many models. There's many ways of doing it. I would say, as a business, we're looking at moving away from that dreaded annual review, that 6-monthly sit down. It's awful. Let's be bloody honest with each other. No one likes sitting there after a year of working hard, looking through saying, shit, how do I justify what I've done this last year? I know I've been bidding. So I would really think outside the box when it comes to performance management. There's business out there in England, particularly, that are offering endless holidays. You don't have to have, but behind that has to be some really solid performance measures. So I would say, go basic, have good conversations with people, talk to them, understand them, make them know. We talked about the policies, the rules, the regulations, where they stand. And I would make it a monthly check-in. In our business, we have weekly one-to-ones, but I would formalize that monthly check-in a little bit more and find a way of logging that so that you can just go through and have those check-ins. Where are you? What you're doing well? What could you be doing better? And then that monthly check-in, just a little bit more formalized, that adds up to your annual review. So there's no scurrying around worrying about justifying what you did and how you did it. It's documented. It's an open dialogue. I don't know anyone that can honestly say, hand on heart, they enjoy going into that annual review. We need to change that. It hasn't changed in so many years. So we really do need to throw that up in the air, rip up the book that wrote that, and do it a little bit differently. But there's not many ways to sit down and talk with someone. So I would recommend, if you really want people's performance to stay on an even keel, talk to them regularly, document it monthly, and still review them on a monthly basis. But it comes with that open dialogue. There's no kind of dread when you're walking in. I would also urge you to really be honest and transparent that at the end of the year, and I know it's a difficult landscape that we're facing year on year, but they want to walk in and they do want something back. Okay, nobody walks into an annual review and just wants to hear nice words and warm hugs. We all do want that, and we all want some constructive feedback as well, but really walk in there and know, have in your toolkit that there is something in it for them, whether it be a pay rise, whether it be the training they've been looking for. Take something in there as well, because we all get up and go to work for a few different reasons. One of them is financial. Don't be embarrassed about that and be open and honest about that. So I think just get a few of those things right for your business, and I think your performance will manage itself. Just keep it open and keep it light.
thank you, Gwen. In the interest of time, we have to stop here, but let me tell you something. When we created this session, it was a pilot project and we wanted to do something new. So we have this interactive session between the audience and the panel of experts. So they have some learning and a takeaway. And today, I'm very glad I chose the real experts come on stage. They've added a lot of value. So I want to give a big hand to these 4 experts. Thank you very much.